This is a really good introduction to crystals and crystal systems. If you're out there identifying minerals and you don't know this, you shouldn't be identifying minerals. That's just truth, okay? I'm going to walk you through this a little bit, but I want you to stop and read it if you can. The external expression and shape of minerals. And yes, a lot of people don't think that you can get rocks or minerals in nice shapes. Of course you can, because it depends on the atomic arrangement. Minerals are inorganic by definition. So the internal structure of the atoms, molecules, gives them their shape. Now, this here is the old school system. It has 6 crystal systems. Most people accept a 7th, called trigonal, which is actually just like a segment of this one. That's why we didn't used to, but I guess people have decided there's 7, whatever. It's mineralogists, it's their game. So the simplest one, and this is the simplest crystal system, isometric. See, it says cubic in parentheses. I don't call it cubic because all these are cubic. Sorry, the air quotes, technically. But you know, they're not cubes. No, of course they're not cubes. But look at the definition. The ABC, or they have AAA axes here, but well, it doesn't matter. ABC are all the same length at 90 degrees. And that's the definition of a cube. But it's also a definition of that. You know, these double-sided pyramids, fluorite. It's, you know, as long as your A, B, and C's are equal length, all at 90 degrees, you have an isometric / cubic crystal. And see, I like how they have the ones inside there to show you how you can have a different shape but still be in that system. I know it's hard to grasp initially, but it isn't. Every dice you've ever had, you know, those, you know, 20-sided die and all those others, if they were crystals, they'd be in this system. Next, you have tetragonal, where you have equal length on 2 axes. One of the axes is shorter, but they're still all 90 degrees. So you can see that's a little step. It's a little different than this one, so this would be your second most simple crystal system, okay? And you look at the zircon, and if you just saw that shape and that shape, you might be like, oh yeah, they're the same things, so they gotta be the same crystal system. This is why learning this stuff is important. This is why we measure things and not just look at things and go, oh yeah, that picture makes it look like this. That fluorite right there, if I just showed people a picture of that and like tried to do it, this probably half of them would go, it's too bad. You know, its color is not, you should never use color to identify a mineral. It helps to identify minerals, but you should never use it. Now, orthorhombic system, you have 3 axes. They're all an equal length. A, B, and C are different, but they still at 90 degrees. Okay? Still at 90 degrees. So you can see a lot of these shapes look similar from system to system, but it's all about length of the axes and the angle relationship. Now, this is technically the next simple system, hexagonal / trigonal. And here you can see, this will be a little complicated here, but I'll tell you why it's simple. Just look at the axis length. 3 equal lengths. So you're still dealing with equal lengths here. But one's longer or shorter axis at 90 to the plane of the other 3. And you can see 3 equal axes 100 degrees apart. Now, technically, there's only 3 axes because we live in 3 dimensions. But you can see the hexagonal shape is, well, hexagonal. And the trigonal one is basically just rhombohedral. And I don't think they have any here. Calcite is. But this is the 4th most simple crystal system. The remaining 2 I'm going to show you are the more complex ones. See, even though the 100 degrees or 120 degrees apart, the axes shorter than one longer or shorter axis at 90 degrees, sorry. And that's usually the ones which would be if you have A, B, and C, it's these ones in here, okay, to the plane of the other three. That's still more simple than a monoclinic system. You have three axes of unequal lengths like you do in orthorhombic, but two of the axes are at 90 degrees and the other is inclined greater than 90. So orthorhombic is really close to this, except you flip one. Now, hexagonal is between the two. Some people will put it on the other side of the monoclinic system, but it's definitely more simple than the triclinic system. It's the most complex one system we have. And three axes of unequal lengths. All the axes are different lengths. They're all inclined. There's no 90 degrees. Those axes can be whatever, just not 90. And you can see they each have another shape inside of them. Now, if you just saw these internal red shapes laying around, would you be able, with no context, and I told you put them in each into a system, would you be able to do that? Well, if you had a ruler, you probably could, and you had this stuff memorized, but this stuff is not simple. You can't just look at a rock or mineral, and most people who do, they just look at the color. Or they'll just look at the rough shape of it and they'll just say something, but it's not that. And it's like, you need context too, you know. You can't just blurt something out and expect it to be that, because that's not rock identification. Mineral identification is very complex. Mineralogy and petrology are not simple subjects. So yeah, all minerals in nature form one of the 6/7 crystal systems. But I just wanted to explain that to people because I don't think a lot of people realize this. And of course, there's more complex than this too. There's twinning. Twinning's a big one. You know, things can twin. That's to mess this up. You know, things can cleave at different angles. Cleavage is how they break apart. That's why you can break a diamond with a hammer, but yet on the most hardness scale, it's a 10. It has to do with cleavage planes. Diamonds are isometric. So yeah, it's stuff is not simple, and I wish geologists would take more than a semester of it too. It's a big pain in the butt. It's not the most exciting to learn about, but it's the basis of everything.